Good evening and welcome everybody to round 9 of the PSGL F4 Championship. We're here in Saudi Arabia, Jeddah, for what will be F1's second newest addition to the calendar. After it's been introduced in 2021 with an absolute thriller in between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, we had another brilliant fight this year between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc in real life. And I'm very excited to see how it's going to be today here in F4. It's only 3 rounds left in this season, and the championship is very close at the top. We are equal on points in between the two championship leaders after a very weak showing from Kieran last time out, because last week we had a break. 2 weeks ago in Brazil, Kieran DNF'd. Dropped outside the points. I think he finished the race, if I'm correct, but he finished way behind Jeddah, who took second place, and with that went into second place. He stayed in second place, but went up in terms of points, and now is equal on points with his championship rival. And I'm very excited to see how it's going to be this week here, as we can see the Ferrari of Lukinik with the yellow edition of the Monza race that we've had in real life. Jeddah, quite a controversial track in real life in Formula 1. It's deemed very dangerous by many people in real life. A very fast street track, the wall's very close, but it's very high speeds through most of the lap. Very, very few slow corners apart from the last corner, turn 1, and then the hairpin of what I believe is turn 13, I think. Yeah, 13 is correct. And I need to adjust the sound, I think, a little bit, because I think the cars are quite a bit too loud, sadly. If I turn this down a little bit here, we should be good to go. Yeah, it should be good. Let me quickly check if the stream is up and running correctly, just in case something is wrong. I know. I think the car sounds were actually alright. Let me excuse me. But yeah, Jake is sadly missing this round here tonight because he has locked himself out of his room, so he can't commentate, and I will have to do this one alone, but I'm going to be on a break from next week onwards as well, so I'm going to miss the last 2 rounds, which I'm very sad about, because this championship is really spicy at the top here, and I'm very, very curious to see how it pans out today with only 13 drivers. But around a track like this, 13 drivers can provide quite a good show. And I hope today is going to be no different, as I don't know, I think the McLaren of Roby is actually the first one right now who's on a flying lap. Jeddah is out the pits as well. He's about to start his first lap. Obviously a purple middle sector for Roby as he goes wide, and that could be an invalidation. No, it's not, but he had the curb. Maybe he lost some time because of that as well. And I'm very curious to see if we will actually see some tactical plays with the DRS as well, as we saw in real life with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen last year, and with Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen this year. And Roby pits. That's very fair of him, because that lap should have been invalidated. I think it's no, it's not LRB, it's actually Simon who comes across the line first out of everyone. Then we've got an Alpine of Kieran, who has just started his lap though, and a Ferrari of Amway, who's coming around the final corner now. Lukinik goes into second place, Diogo Silva into third, very close at the top right now, not even a bit more than half a tenth in between P1 and P3, with the first laps being set right now. Amway tops the timing sheets by quite some margin, 2.5 tenths ahead of Simon and 3 tenths ahead of his teammate. But let's see what Kieran can do. He invalidated his lap already, not off to a good start. His championship rival, Jeddah, is on a lap, and it is counting right now as we go on board with this Mercedes driver through now the second DRS zone around this track, which I think is quite an unnecessary one, because look at this corner. You can't really overtake through here unless you are willing to risk your entire race for one overtake. you might as well wait until this long DRS straight or even the main straight. Both really good overtaking opportunities. Into the final corner we go, and slight lockup from Giraffu, similar to Max Verstappen in 2021. As he comes around the final corner, then that might have cost him some lap time here. But let's see where he goes. He still goes onto provisional pole by quite some margin, over 3.5 tenths ahead of Marcel in the Aston Martin and 6 tenths ahead of Amoy. Right now, no one really close to the time of Giraffu, even though now Kieran is coming across the line to start his lap. It was a 27.7 to be fair. It wasn't valid, but still a 27.7. Quite a solid lap time to start with, even though it didn't count. But it's just good for a driver, just knowing that they have some solid pace in the car. And I think he will go into the pits at the end of this lap because his ERS is not draining, it looks like. So I reckon he will just call it a day with this lap. Yeah, he's not using ERS, so that lap isn't going to be any lap we should really, you know, watch out for. And right now I think we've got LRB on a lap. Is he draining his ERS? Yes, he is. And he's now coming up to the very quick left-right chicane. A bit careful on the exit there with the curb on the outside. But no, he's actually not using ERS, so I don't think that is a proper lap. Let's see what Matteo does. He is on a proper lap though. He is using ERS and coming into the final corner now. It goes a bit wide as well into 4th gear and then out of the final corner. A good exit is very important, but he dives into the pit lane and won't set this lap time. Let's go on board with Kieran here. Oh no, he wasn't on a lap, sorry. Roby though has just started a lap. I'm sorry if I'm a bit, you know, messy in terms of my commentary, but it's just very unusual for me to commentate on my own. And it's not easy to always keep talking and to keep track of everything. We've got a purple first sector from Roby here in his McLaren. As he comes through turn 13, a very long swooping 180-degree corner. Quite a nice corner. I think it's very satisfying if you nail it, and very close to the wall on the exit here, as we've got very similar chicanes in this middle sector. Every chicane just feels like it's more or less the same as the one before, just with a tiny little difference in terms of speeds you're carrying through those corners. But here comes Roby then, another purple middle sector then from him, and it looks like his lap is going to be pretty good as he comes into the final corner. Let's see. Slightly goes up wide, but he carries the momentum, slightly touches the wall on the outside there, I think. But he comes towards the line. Let's see if he can challenge Giraffu for provisional pole at the moment, and he does by quite some margin, 2.5 tenths out of Giraffu. Obviously that was his second try, but still quite a solid lap from him there. See, Samba has invalidated. Joey is a bit laggy, so I'd rather go on board with Jogo Silva, who's just started a lap. Let's see. Simon is a bit further ahead. He's already coming out of turn 2 here. Turn 1 also a very controversial corner, I'd say, in terms of racing. What we saw in 2022 and 2021, there was quite some carnage. I remember Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso having a scrap coming down into the first corner, and it's a big improvement by over a tenth from Simon in the first sector. As he flies around turn 13, it's incredibly difficult to keep up with all the different corners because every single kink around this track counts as a corner. So we've got 27 turns in the end, and he's just crashed, which I didn't quite see because I just looked at the track map to check how many corners we've got, and I just missed that. I'm very sorry about that, but let's just go on board with Giraffu, who's not out on a proper lap. Then we see Samba, he's not out on a proper lap. Kieran not using his ERS either. Joey has invalidated. Jogo Silva also invalidated. Yeah, track limits can be a big issue around here, to be fair, as we can already see here in quali with many drivers invalidating here and there. But we are on board with Matteo right now in his Red Bull, flying around the first sector, which was incredibly satisfying on F1 2021, but here he invalidates And that is his lap done. Let's look at Amboy. What can he do? He is always good for a surprise. Had some good races here and there this season. Showed some solid pace. But isn't quite at the top of the championship fight. But at the moment, he is looking to improve on his lap so far. Currently sitting in P4. 8 tenths down on the provisional pole time of Roby at the moment. But as he comes into the final corner now, let's see what he can do. We've got yellow flags. That's the Mercedes of, it might be Giraffe actually, or Joey, I'm not quite sure. But he uses the slipstream of the Mercedes for a split second there. That might have helped him just a little bit. And that puts him up into P3. Still, 4 tenths down on Roby. Giraffe was invalidated. Kieran is out on a lap. That's interesting to see. It would be his first proper timed lap of the day. And he slightly goes wide and he invalidates with a purple middle sector. That's frustrating for our championship leader. Unfortunate for him. Very unfortunate. But that's just how it is around this track. Very cruel, very easy to invalidate. And it doesn't forgive you for any mistakes you make. Even though we don't have gravel, we can see LRB improves his time, goes up into P6. And then we've got the Aston Martin of Marcel. He clips the apex quite nicely with the only painted curb. That's not really a curb, it's just paint on the tarmac. But as he comes towards the line, let's see what he can do. He improves and goes into P2 ahead of Giraffe with a purple final sector. Good lap time from the Aston Martin, who has had some good pace in the last couple of races. I like what I saw generally from the Aston Martin guys. Looks like they have picked up the pace a little bit at the later stages of this season so far. And just need to make sure that I thought it's not getting all too dry, so excuse me if I, don't talk for a couple of seconds because I need to take a sip of my drink. Otherwise it's going to be a very exhausting night for me here. In terms of commentary, let's look at the Williams of Down. Is he using ERS? I'm not quite sure. I could just put on the telemetry. That would really help. Nope, he's not using any ERS. Same with Matteo, who has invalidated. LRB is not on a lap. Same as Simon. Lukanik not on a lap, but Jogo Silva's just started one and is Haas as he comes into the first sector now, which is probably the easiest part to invalidate in. Obviously very quick. You're always very tight to the white lines on the exits here and there, especially through the last part of this first sector, but it looked like a pretty solid one. He's still down on his time by 0.03 of a second as he flies around turn 13. The camber really helps to, put the power down early and just let the car fly through that corner with a lot of momentum. If you can carry the momentum around there, it's very important to the start of the second sector then. As he is just about to cross the second sector split time. Is he improving? Yes, he is, by a bit less than 0.2. That will bring him up into the top 7 at the moment, if he can keep it together. He didn't invalidate, and now you can, you can't really invalidate if you don't make a massive mistake now. But here he comes then around turn 27, and close to the exit, to the ball on the exit. Really easy to touch that one as well. That might ruin your exit, but he managed it quite well. Comes across the line, and it is P7 for the Haas driver. And Matteo is out on a lap also in the final sector. Robbie, I think, might be... No, he's coming into the pit lane. Let's see what Matteo does. Around the final corner he comes. And very close to the wall, slightly lost the rear end. That might have cost him some time, and he immediately dives into the pit lane. Looks like he wouldn't have improved on his best lap so far. Joey is out on a lap though. Awkward timing. And then he invalidates, and that is his lap done. He has got enough time to come into the pit, change tires, and go out for one final run though. And Jogo Silva is on his way back to the pits. And Amoy is starting his final lap of the day, because he won't have any more time after this one. So I reckon it's going to be his last lap. And he needs to make it count now, as he's using his ERS. Yes, it is a proper lap from him. And he clips the wall on the inside, and that has ruined his lap completely. And I reckon he will abandon this one then. Still using ERS though. And he's still pushing quite a lot, and now he's invalidated. At least now he has abandoned his lap, I would say. If he's got enough fuel, he could go for another run, but I don't know if he has. Sadly, I can't really check. Fuel isn't blinking up, so he might have enough fuel, or he's just rushing his way back into the pits. But I think if he comes into the pits at the end of his lap now, he won't make it in time, because it takes you probably around 1 minute 50, I would reckon. 1 minute 45, I'd say, at least, to get around the track when you're not on a flying lap. But let's see what he will do. He's actually using his ERS, so I think he's trying to rush it back to the pit lane. I'm curious to see if he will make it. I don't think he will, but he's gonna try. Is he gonna try? Yes, he is. He dives into the pits. Oh, and he spun. That looked odd, though. Okay. He spun into the pit lane, and he's now back in the pits. Let's see what Samba does. Samba's at the end of his lap, but he didn't push on that lap, so everything's alright. Marcel is about to start his lap. It just doesn't say out lap anymore when you enter the final sector. Only just found out in round 9. That's a solid point to realize that. But there we go. Samba now on his flying lap has not set a time so far in this session. Maybe now he manages to set one and put himself a bit further up the grid than P13. Obviously, that's the positive of a grid with only 13 people, as he invalidates, and it's gonna be P13 at max for him. LRB just about to start his lap. Marcel as well. Marcel has, he's just started his lap now as he flies through the first sector in his beautiful green Aston Martin. I absolutely love the looks of that car. Just on the F1 game, Jake and me, we talked about that in Monza, that the front wing looks quite high on the Aston Martin on the game, which looks a bit odd, but still a beautiful car, as he is slightly down on his time, just a bit more than half a tenth at the moment as he comes through turn 13. Right now he's not improving. He needs to pick up the pace a little bit in the middle sector here to still improve on his time and maybe challenge for pole position against Roby, because he's not even 1.5 tenths away from provisional pole. Roby though is going to have one final lap as well. He opens the DRS with a top speed of around 330 kilometers per hour. Purple middle sector slightly improved, but still 200s down. That looked a very nice chicane there. Into the third sector we go, and now it's basically just a straight and one final corner. If you can find some time, it needs to be a massive improvement now in this final sector. He nearly needs 2 tenths to pick up this provisional pole position. Can he still improve on his lap though? That might save him from being beaten in this quali session. He improves, but not enough. 44 thousandths of a second away. Let's look at Girofu. Girofu's on a good lap as well. If he improves in the third sector, he might take pole position here, and he goes onto provisional pole by just 6 thousandths of a second. But we still got Roby out on track, who's improving by 2 tenths in the first sector. It's looking good for Roby. If he can keep that lap together, he might retake provisional pole. Let's see what Kieran does. Kieran has invalidated. Kieran is going to be starting at P12 at max, and let's look at what is going on with Roby then. Roby still 2 tenths up. We'll see the second sector split now. Oh, he lost some time in the middle sector. It might be really close. He doesn't invalidate. Looked like a nice tidy chicane coming into the third sector now. Opens the DRS for the second to last time on his lap. He needs to keep it tidy in the final corner. If he can hold it together, he will take pole position here in Jeddah, and he manages to make the final corner quite well as he comes towards the line. And can he retake pole position? Yes, he can, by more than 1 tenth of a second as well. Nice lap there from Roby, and that was with a slightly messed up middle sector. Let's see what Diogo Silva can do, if he can still pick up a couple of positions here. Currently only in P10. Cameron has dropped down to P13, by the way, so he's going to start from last. No improvement made from Diogo Silva, and that is it. Marcel has already set his lap time, so Roby managed to retake pole position after it was taken away for around half a lap by Giraffu. And Marcel with quite a solid lap in P3 in the end. Matteo takes P4 in his Red Bull ahead of Amboy and then Lukenig. So it's a full third row lockout for the Ferrari boys. Samba starts ahead of Simon, who was just a couple of hundreds ahead of his teammate LRB, who's going to start in 9th, ahead of Jaume, Diogo Silva and Joey. And then once again, Kieran with a poor qualifying. He needs to sort that out before the end of this season in order to not get in any trouble. I mean, at Jeddah, everything can happen. Who knows? He might as well win from this starting grid position, because Jeddah's always great for some chaos, but still, we'll have to wait and see, and it won't make the situation any easier for him to start down at P13. Remember, formation lap once again turned off because we still have issues with it, and Cody's is not able to fix it so far, so we'll have to wait and see until they fix it in order to then actually have a proper formation lap before the start of the race, which I always quite like because it builds up the tension. But now it's just everyone readies up and it's lights out. So once again, it's a typical story after a really good start to the season from Kieran. He looked to be struggling with consistency in the last couple of rounds, at least in qualifying. He had some issues here and there. I remember in Brazil, he had issues in the race as well. He didn't give up though, which I really appreciate for a championship leader. That's the mentality you need, but still, you can't afford that many mistakes. And he had 3 chances to set a lap, and he invalidated on all 3 of them. And now, if he keeps doing the same in the race, it's going to be a struggle for him, because he's going to pick up penalties then left, right and centre. But we'll have to wait and see. As we are waiting for the drivers to ready up, hopefully everyone gets through turn 1 and turn 2 unscathed. It's always a nice corner for some collisions, especially on the opening lap, with some people just misjudging the braking. It reminds me a bit of Monza turn 1, except from the fact that you don't really have the opportunity to cut the corner in order to avoid an incident, at least not in the way that you can do it in Monza. As the drivers are ready now, or they have to be ready, because the race is about to start and we're only a few seconds away from the lights coming on, and we're up to 5 red lights. And we're underway here in Jeddah. It seems to be a good start from Roby in P1, but Giraffu has gone away quite well as well. He's on the inside. He's got the inside line for turn 1. He backs out though, so Roby stays in the lead at the back. We've got a 3-wide moment with the 2 Ferraris and Matteo, who's trying to defend his 4th place. Marcel has kept his positions as well, and it looks like Simon in the back has made up some ground. Kieran already up into P11, but he's been dived down the inside of Jaume, and it looks like he had to cut the chicane in order to avoid something. Jamba side by side with Simon. Oh no, Lukenig, sorry, and the Ferrari has dropped places left, right and centre, and he's down into PA, but it looks like everyone has gone through the first couple of corners unscathed, at least more or less. Now the drivers just need to find a rhythm. Obviously now they're not side by side anymore, at least most of them aren't. It looks like Diogo Silva had a little look on LRB. Kieran now needs to settle down. Obviously he needs to fight his way through the field at some point. Let's look at the tyres just real quick. We can see everyone has decided to start on the medium tyre, except, oh, that was really close in between Diogo Silva and Kieran, but Kieran has got the outside line and he's made the move stick. Beautiful one from the championship leader, but right now he's still losing a lot of points. He's back in the points now, but he needs to pick up even more positions, and he's trying to do so as quickly as possible, and he's already gone from P13 to P9 within 1 lap. Really good start from Kieran, and that's what he needs to do for the rest of the race as well in order to have a chance of beating Giraffu in this race. as Matteo was really close to the back of Amboy. So like I said, Lukanik the only one who started on mediums, but surprisingly, he's the only one that had a really bad start. Or he's one of the guys who's had a really bad start. He's dropped a couple of positions. If I look at the position changes, yeah, he's lost 2 positions. Same with Jaume. Kieran, like I said, beautiful start, but it didn't change much in terms of the front runners there. But let's just keep an eye on the gap in between Amboy and Marcel. If Amboy can pick up the pace a little bit, and let's see if Roby is managing to pull away from Giraffu. I can tell you what though, Samba is close to the rear end of that Alfa Romeo ahead of him. And it looks like Lukanik is not really able to use his tyres all too much right now. And we've got 2 situations which could become really close. There goes Samba then around the outside through here, which immediately turns it to the inside. A bit confusing that we've got Kieran right at the back of the Ferrari of Lukanik ahead as well. In theory, he should have less grip, but it looks like he's struggling less than Lukanik, who's not really managed to get a good exit out of here. Kieran is staying behind for now. Now he's using his overtake. He's going to the outside, which isn't going to make it easy for him to overtake into the final corner, turn 27. He does the switchback though. Beautiful move. Lukanik, I don't know if he locked up, but he got slightly wide into the final corner. That compromised his run, and that was a good overtake from Luke. And Luke is doing a really good job at the moment of cutting through the field, and he's already up into P8. And he's doing what he needs to do after he messed up qualifying. He's on a way of getting back into the top positions, and right now he's just cutting his way through the field. Obviously the nature of Jeddah doesn't make it all too difficult to overtake here and there, but still, he doesn't have the DRS yet, and he still managed to gain 5 positions within 2 laps, and Jaume is the first one to pick up a penalty in this race, as Matteo's still really close to the rear end. And look at Kieran once again, really close to Simon now. He's already caught up to the next car. It's really good to see. Only 2 laps in, and Kieran is putting on a great show so far. I'd actually like to have 20 drivers on the grid and see Kieran start from 20th around this track, because he seems to have some really good pace in his Alpine. The Alfa Romeo got really wide, and that gave Kieran the opportunity. Some contact on the outside. I think Simon has hit the wall on the outside. There comes Lukanik back at Kieran now. Both have got the DRS. Both are using their overtake. No, Lukanik isn't using his overtake. He's going for the outside. Will he try the switchback? A little... Yeah, he slightly tried it, but not quite. Now he's got the DRS once again, and Kieran is not really fighting it, or is he? No, he's not. Lukanik on the inside then. Should be an easy pass. Or will Kieran stick around the outside? Yes, he does. It will turn into the inside for turn 2. He gets pushed onto the curb on the inside. They're still side by side. Oh, and a little tank slapper there from Lukanik. That resulted in slight contact in between those two. Hopefully Kieran's front wing is alright after that, and it looks like Lukanik is all over the place. He's struggling on his mediums in the Ferrari, which is really odd to see, because it looks like the hards are just better, at least for the start of this race. And Kieran now has to re-overtake Lukanik, which is obviously not ideal. And the gap ahead is getting bigger and bigger. 2.5 now already in between Samba and Lukanik. Oh, hopefully Kieran doesn't have front wing damage. He might have, because he's losing some time here and there. He's slightly losing time while Lukanik has found his rhythm. Slightly catching up to Samba now ahead, and we've got a fight in between Amboy and Marcel, who has just been overtaken by the other Ferrari, and will now hunt for Giraffe. He won't have the DRS to defend himself though. That might make it difficult for him to keep the position now. Will Marcel go past already? Yes, he will, and he won't have the DRS because of that. And Amboy has kept his place and will probably now have the DRS, which might give... Yes, he doesn't have the DRS, Marcel, but he's using his overtake. No, he's not. He's just got pretty good straight line speed, it looks like, and managed to hold off Matteo behind him. Looks like it's a group of 3 in between those. And Kieran is staying in the DRS window of Lukanik, but he's not really able to get close enough. Lukanik, though, now has found his rhythm, And on the last lap, he caught up half a second onto Samba. Maybe down to the fight in between Amboy and Marcel as well. But still, he's catching up. Gap now down to 1.8. Simon, the second one to pick up a penalty, already on lap 5. Penalties could be a big thing here at the end of this race. And Kieran cannot afford to lose the DRS to the car ahead, because the DRS really gains you a lot of time around this track, and Lukanik is getting closer and closer to that DRS window of Samba. Once again, he already took half a second out of the cars in front within not even half a lap already. Once again, and it looks like the Ferrari has really found his pace now. Kevin still only just inside the DRS window in his Alpine, which is looking beautiful under the lights here in Jeddah. Only 8 tenths away. And look at Lukanik, he's really gaining. He hasn't got that much ERS, neither has Kieran, and he's using it to stay within that DRS window. He knows he needs it, and he can still recharge some battery once he's in that big DRS train up ahead. And Marcel still, he's feeling comfortable in that situation he's in right now. P4 right behind Amboy in the DRS train. Not a real threat from behind. You know, he's getting carried along, but they're losing time to the top 2. But it looks like Marcel is not too confident that he can close that gap down to the top 2, because Roby and Drafu are running away with it right now. 2-second gap in between P2 and P3 at the moment, with Roby leading the way, but not really being able to get rid of that Mercedes behind him. Drafu in a great form. Simon has crashed. Simon has crashed in the first sector. Will that be a safety car? No, it won't. And let's look at Joey if he is able to use that moment of confusion that Zhao maybe had in that situation. He's looking for the outside through turn 13, and it's now turning into the inside for the upcoming chicane, at least for the first part. They're still side by side, and now he's gained the spot, but he cut the corner, so I think he should give the place back to Zhao, which he does not do. Okay, that might go down to the stewards at the end of this race. But that looked like an illegal overtake to me. Just braked a little too late and just cut the chicane. And it's looking like that might be an overtake from Samba now towards Matteo. Beautiful camera shot we've had there. He's got the outside line, Samba, and he's trying to attack the big sister team here. He's in the slipstream now. He will have the DRS at the top. We've got a close ride as well. Girafu's looking to make a move for the race lead, and he's pushed to the outside, and he has to back out, and he knows it's the right choice. He doesn't take any risks. Matteo! Oh, how did that happen? Matteo just dived down the inside of Marcel, and Marcel is not losing 1 but 2 positions within 2 corners, and from being comfortably in P4 in that DRS train, he's dropped down to P6 now, and he's the last one out of that train right now. And I actually thought Matteo would be pressurized from Samba behind, but no, he just decided to, the best defense is a good attack, and just went for it on Marcel and made it stick. Samba used that compromised line that Marcel had for his advantage as well, and just took the place, and he's up into P5 now. Lukanik now has gone into that 1 second window. He has got barely any ERS left though in his Ferrari, so he might have to recharge from now on, but doing that in a DRS train is a lot easier without losing too much time, rather than outside of a DRS train on your own, because you really need that DRS to get dragged along if you can't really use your battery charge or too much. Kieran is not too far away from Lukanik though, so the Ferrari might need to be a bit careful here. Only 6% of ERS left, and a very quick look in Alpine behind him. Lukanik has lost the DRS again, and that might be the chance for Kieran to get past now. He's using his overtake. He's got the rear wing open. He's pulling to the inside, and they're side by side, and it should be an easy move that is even done before turn 1, and it is. Good stuff there as Matteo picks up his first penalty of the day. Good move by Kieran though, and they're side by side there, Samba and Matteo, and Samba has taken the place, cut the chicane on the outside as well though. We've got a spin at the back. I think that's LRB. Yes, he is spun out of turn 2. He's back on track. I don't know if he's lost any bits of carbon fiber of his car. He's just got a penalty as well, I think. So penalties, I don't want to think about penalties all too much just now, towards the end of the race obviously, because they need it to figure out which position they're going to finish in. But at the moment, penalties are just not too important. Robbie still got 70% of ERS left. That's solid. But look at the amount of battery charge that Giroffu has got in his Mercedes. That's around 90%, I think, if I say it correctly. And he's just, you know, he feels comfortable, I reckon, in P2 with a big gap behind him and sitting in the DRS of the race leader. I think that's a prime position to be in around Jeddah. Currently lap 8, maybe strategy will play a factor. He can react to whatever Robbie is going to do in terms of strategy. Kieran has just gained another place. He's up into 6th place. Good stuff from the man who's currently now, as it stands, 2nd in the championship. Yeah, he's doing a really good job. He's doing what he needs to do and sets a new fastest lap of the race. And Giroffu's going to see that, but he still knows. He's got 3 seconds behind him. And Kieran is stuck in that train now. And he needs to find a way through, and it isn't going to be all too easy. He hasn't got that much ERS left, especially in comparison to the drivers around him. Matteo's got a lot more. And Giroffu was just feeling comfortable. Look at that, 99% of ERS charge that he just had there coming out of the first sector. Incredible. He's feeling comfortable. He's feeling confident, and I think that's the right choice, to just stick behind, you know, follow the car in front. He's got good pace, he's got the gap behind, he's got the DRS, he can charge the battery. Just a very comfortable position for the Mercedes driver at the moment. This championship driver behind him, who's currently sitting in 6th place, but we're only on lap 9, and if he can, you know, nail the lap to pit, he might have a chance to pick up even more positions. As I have to drink my coffee a bit more quickly, it's getting cold now. Just need that caffeine to be ready for anything that happens in this race, as Giroffu just picked up 1st place from Robbie. He decided to go for it and managed to get the position. Robbie, does he want to stay behind? Yes, he does. Maybe Robbie now decided to say, you know what, I'm going to stick behind now. I'm going to stay behind. Charge by battery now, and it's the other way around. Giroffu slightly used some overtake here. Maybe Giroffu was now trying to pull away a little bit. If he can pull that 1 second gap, that would be crucial. As Amboy got a bit closer now, only 2.2 now. The gap was up to 3 seconds at some point. Both have got a very high battery charge, but still, only 2 seconds to Amboy now, who's just set the fastest first sector of this race so far. Kieran not really able to make any moves anymore, at the moment at least, as we've got 16 laps left in this race. Everyone on the hards will stay out for a couple more laps. Lukenig hasn't been able to use his mediums all too well in this race. Only 1 retirement though so far. Very surprised about that, but also impressive to see, good to see. Obviously, I'd like to have as many drivers in this race as possible. And we've got a spin. That is Jaume. Yeah, middle sector. He waits, even though he's ghosted. He waits until LRB passes him. Jaume not really having the best of races here tonight, as Samba and Amboy are having a battle for P3. Amboy's not going to be happy with that, because he was gaining some solid time on the top 2. Will he retake that 3rd place now? He will try to. Down the inside he goes into turn 1, and Samba doesn't really fight it. Don't know if fighting is the best choice right now, guys. I think it would be smarter to more or less work together to catch up to those front 2, because they were gaining some time. Matteo now lost the DRS window ahead, and that might give Kieran the chance on this lap to go for a move and move up into P5. That would be crucial, because he can't lose that gap to the cars ahead. And Samba just got a penalty. Yellow's in the 3rd sector. Jaume has decided to call it a day. Parked his Williams car in the garage. Or not really parked in the garage. The car's going to come out once again and then retire on track. Which still quite yeah, don't know why Cody's... Oh no, the car actually stayed in the pits. Alright, that's new. Didn't know that. But Kieran obviously doesn't want to make a move here, because it's a big risk to do it here, so you rather wait until the final corner or the first corner. Probably would be even smarter to do it on turn 1, but he decides to do it now. He flies past Samba at the same time, flies past Amoy, sorry. Kieran now won't have any DRS to help himself against Matteo now. Will he pit? Yes, Matteo was the first of the hard runners to pit. And he's got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And Amoy retook the lead from Samba now. It's more of a DRS battle right now. Whoever gets the DRS on the main straight is having it. Matteo then onto a fresh set of mediums. Lukanik has also pitted. A side-by-side moment in between Joey and the Haas. Joey had to cut the corner, got a 3-second time penalty because of it. That looks a bit clumsy what those two guys are doing, but Joey has to back out now. Sorry, Diogo Silva has to back out now. Or does he? Or does he? He tried to hold it, but it's not really possible to go side-by-side through this first sector. And I think Joey might, you know, go to the stewards afterwards for that penalty. And it would be crucial for Kieran now to get in that 1-second window. We're on lap 12. We're not far away from the pits. Obviously, so Matteo was the first one of the hard runners to go into the pits. He picked up a 5-second time penalty though, which is far from ideal. Kieran just outside the DRS window. Looks like he's got some understeer. Maybe the tyres are going down a little bit, but it should be an easy medium to hard strategy, or other way around. And we can see up ahead once again Samba. Now he stays behind. Now he saves his DRS for the main straight. He stays behind before the final corner. Both are using their overtake buttons. They're losing time to the top two, and you can see the red light popping up, and Samba was making Amoy a bit nervous there, coming down into turn 1, just weaving left to right. Kieran is in the pits for a fresh set of mediums. That's going to be his one and only pit stop if nothing goes wrong. Once again, Joey and Diogo Silva are fighting, and Joey just took his place back. Kieran, where does he come out in comparison to Matteo? It looks like ahead, yes. The overcut has worked beautifully for the Alpine driver. Probably because of... Nah, he didn't even have DRS. Maybe he used his battery charge on that lap a bit more than usually. And maybe he is able to undercut those two guys ahead, Samba and Amboy, who are still fighting more or less. Really close to each other. We are around the halfway mark at the moment. He's not going to go for a move here, is he? No, he's not. As you can see, the sparks flying, which always looks cool on the F1 cars. Now the gap, it was down to 1.9 at some point. Now it's back up to 3 seconds, and you can see Samba's now flying past him. But he's not going to have the DRS on the main straight now. If he can get a good exit, he might stay ahead though. He's got a little bit of battery left, but not much. And both are deciding to pit. No one picked up a penalty, good stuff. Marcel also didn't pick up a penalty. Let's see where Kieran is going to be in comparison to those two guys. Or those three guys, actually. Amboy comes out the pit lane here. He stays behind Samba. And you can see there's Kieran. They're going to cut the first corner due to the pit exit, but it still might be enough for Kieran to stay ahead. And yes, he is ahead of both of those guys. Brilliant stuff from Kieran. Good outlap he did there. And he's now up into, theoretically, P3 in this race. Joey Head didn't pit yet, and those top two guys didn't pit. And if the undercut was so strong on 1 lap, it's going to be even stronger on 2 laps, and he might even be able to get into the DRS window of the top 2. You can see Amboy is getting pressurized by Matteo, who pitted a lot earlier than those guys. He didn't make the undercut work as much as Kieran did. Kieran did a really good job. Hopefully he doesn't get stuck behind Joey for too long now. Obviously Joey and Giraffe might do some tactics here and there. Maybe Joey can hold up the championship rival. No, he lets him pass. That's very fair. That's very fair from Joey. I think he lets both pass, yeah. He's minding his own business. That's very fair from Joey. He knows he's in a completely different race than those two guys. And just look at how close Samba is. Samba is really willing to get back past. Roby pits. Jirafu stays out. Interesting choice. We can see Samba is gaining and gaining and gaining. And he's going down the inside into the final corner. But let's just stay calm for a second because the main straight is coming up now. And he does have a bit of DRS left. But Kieran uses it, and he's got the slipstream, he's got the DRS, and back around its outside it goes. Joey picks up a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and Samba is going to have flashbacks of the fight previously. Roby is comfortably ahead of Kieran by about 2.4 seconds, but Kieran has gained some time on him. Remember, he was outside the 1 second window of Samba and Amboy before he pitted, and now he's less than 2 seconds behind Roby, and I'm curious to see where Jirafu will come out. I'm curious to see how good that undercut from Roby will work. You can see Jirafu is now using his overtake as much as he can. He's saved his battery exactly for this lap and for a fight, but you can see Roby's using it as well. Obviously, he had cold tires at the start of the lap, which didn't help him all too much. Joey picks up another penalty. This time it's for corner cutting. And Kieran hasn't got the battery charge to really keep up. But it would be a lot of damage limitation if he could just finish just one position behind Jirafu. He is hoping for Roby to beat his rival. Jirafu is coming into the pits now. Hopefully he won't speed. He does speed! Oh no, Jirafu makes a mistake in this crucial part of the race. And that might completely throw him behind his championship rival Kieran. And Kieran might do even more than damage limitation and gain some points on his championship rival. Here comes Roby then. And he's looking to stay ahead of Jirafu. Yes, Jirafu has picked up a 5-second penalty and is still behind Roby. So an awful pair of pit stops now for him. That was far from ideal, and Kieran can now try and catch up in that first sector. Kieran picks up a time penalty as well. Oh my goodness. Both of our championship contenders are making mistakes in crucial parts of the race. Kieran is now within that 1 second window, and he needs to use that overtake button to stay within that window. He knows that Jirafu is using all of his battery charge, but he also knows that he's on cold tires right now. He might still have a chance of being inside that DRS window. Jirafu's dropped out of that 1 second window of Roby ahead, and right now it looks like Kieran might have the DRS. Does he have it? Let's see. It was close. Is it being open? No, it's not. He was just outside of it, and that was crucial. Otherwise, he could have gained some time and maybe stayed inside that 1 second window, but he was just that little bit too far away, and now it's getting pressurized from Samba behind. Once again, as Matteo has crashed. And we've got a safety car. And that turns the situation around. What does Jirafu do? Does he pit now? He can't fit another set of mediums because he doesn't have one more set. And that means he can't serve his 5-second penalty. It would have been ideal for him to serve it now. I don't know if it's a VSC or a full safety car. It's a full safety car. Okay, that makes the situation interesting. Alright, so we've got Roby in the lead. He's in a really comfortable position. He can control the pace. He's in the lead. He's got Jirafu behind, who's got 5-second penalty. Then we've got Kieran behind Jirafu, who's got a 3-second penalty. And then also Samba behind Kieran with also a 3-second time penalty. The first one without a penalty behind race leader Roby is Amboy in P5. Who isn't really able to put up too much pressure, at least at the restart of the race. So it's a really comfortable position for Roby right now. With, I reckon the safety car will come in with then 6 or 7 laps to go. So, interesting. Interesting situation for everyone here. But we saw both championship contenders, when it mattered, both made mistakes. You know, we saw Kieran crack under pressure in qualifying already, and validating 3 of his lap times, and not setting a lap, starting from last place. Then doing a great job in this race so far. He's shown some great pace, some great racecraft, he can now recharge his ERS, which was his biggest deficit to Giraffe so far after the pit stop. But then Giraffe, when it mattered, he made the mistake, sped into the pit lane, picked up a 5-second time penalty, and Kieran picked up, just seconds later, picks up a 3-second time penalty. But still, if Kieran can stay within those 2 seconds of Giraffe, that's brilliant for him. It's more than damage limitation. He even gains some points on his rival, which would be incredible after that qualifying. But I'm just going to use that safety car phase to rest my voice a little bit, to be ready for the final parts of this race. So I hope you won't be too mad with me not talking for the rest of the safety car phase, because I really need my voice for the end, probably, because I think it might be getting quite hectic. As I will quickly just check if the stream is still up and running properly, or if anything has gone wrong, just to make sure everything is working. Yeah, it looks like stream is still working, which is pretty good. Don't know if I'm a bit quiet. I'll just have to check for the stream now, because I just slightly... I'm just gonna put myself one click louder, just in case, because I think I might have accidentally turned it down. Sorry for the echo then, just needed to make sure. It's always a bit of a struggle when you're alone and don't have a mate that can check for you. But yeah, I'm just gonna be a bit quiet now, as the safety car will not be in at the end of this lap. Just a quick notice, I think the engine sounds of the Mercedes safety car is actually better than the engine sounds of the actual F1 cars. Okay, as I use that chance for a little break now, because I really enjoyed that little break, because it's quite exhausting commentating for the entirety of the race without someone else being able to support you. That is, by the way, that is absolutely not offending Jake. at any point, I don't blame Jake at all, because I missed a lot more races than he did. So no offense to Jake. That is just me stating that it's quite difficult to, do an entire race on your own, especially if you try to bring some hype into your voice as well by commentating properly. As we can see the drivers now warming up the tires. Roby is controlling the pace. He's weaving left to right. He can decide whenever he wants to go, and it looks like he has just gone now, and that looked like a proper solid restart for him. Yes, it was. He's under no threat from behind. Jirafu is able to pull away from his championship rival Kieran as well. Samba though is looking very feisty right behind Kieran. Is he trying to go for a move down the inside? No, he's not. But he was really close, and he could have gone for it, but he decided not to do so. Maybe to also not interfere too much with the championship fight at the moment. Kieran's still behind Jirafu, but right now he would still finish this race in terms of points ahead of his rival, who has got 5 seconds of penalties. Kieran only got 3 seconds, so he needs to stay within 2 seconds, but he's losing quite a lot of time right now, as both are using their ERS, but Jirafu just seems to have some quite good pace. Roby is managing to pull away quite solidly. The gap is already up to a second, and if he can keep Jirafu out of that 1 second window, I'm pretty confident that he will win this race, especially because of those 5 seconds, because if Jirafu really wants to win this race, he needs to push now and then gain that time of 5 seconds against Roby, which is going to be near impossible looking at the pace Roby's had so far without making any mistakes. I don't want to jinx anything right now, knock on wood. So Kieran's still within that 1 second window. He needs to stay in that DRS window if he wants to, stick with his championship rival to in the end beat him. It will make it a lot more easy for him to stay within those 2 seconds, as he loses the rear end and lost quite a lot of time with that. You can see the gap is going up quite a lot because of just that tiny little mistake. I don't know if he touched the wall on the outside. Looks like he's got no damage though, which is good. And there's a lock up! Jirafu locks up into turn 1, goes wide, and has to take the escape route as he now tries to rejoin the track without taking anyone out. That was really close with his teammate Joey, and he's now dropped into last place. My goodness me, Jirafu cracks under pressure for the second time in this race, and it has now set Kieran completely free, and by starting from last place on the grid against his championship rival starting in second from the first row of the grid, he is now in second place and will gain massive points on his rival, and he can maybe even build up the gap to Amboy, who's sitting in fourth place at the moment, and he can maybe build that gap up to more than 3 seconds in order to keep that second place, because Samba behind him has got a penalty as well. Roby seems to be set for victory now. It seems to be secured. Jirafu is willing to try and gain some time back. Joey is spun. That's the second time someone spins through that part. Let's see if Jirafu is somehow able to gain some positions back that he lost because of that lockup. Joey's got disqualified from the session for going the wrong way. I think that was just the game, just being the game. But still, Jirafu, for the second time in this race, cracks under pressure, but Kieran got overtaken by Samba just now, and he hasn't got that much ERS left. Samba has made the decisive move, and there's no DRS enabled just yet, so that was a smart tactic by him to go for a move now. Oh, and a lockup as well from Kieran. He's now got everything in his own hands to gain a lot of points on his rival and to pull away in the championship with 2 races to go after this one. But he can't crack under pressure now as well like his championship rival did. As Jirafu picks up a place now, he's back up into P8. Maybe can do some damage limitation now that I thought Kieran would have to do by starting in P13. Marcel now picks up a penalty. That helps Kieran as well. But Kieran currently sitting at P3, net P4 with a penalty being dropped behind Amboy with his 3 seconds being added at the end of the race. And Jirafu down in 8th with 5 seconds of penalties as well. My goodness, first the 5 second speeding penalty, and now the lockup into turn 1 really reminded me of F1 Manager, where those lockups are pretty clear. I don't know if maybe he had some issues with his brakes or something, because it just like it looks like He completely locked up all 4 tyres and just went straight on. That really reminded me of F1 Manager. Spin from Lukenig. Was not having a great race either. Even though he had the soft tyres, that gives Druffel another place. He's now up into 7th, trying to get past Jogo Silva. He doesn't use the DRS line tactically. Oh, very tight on the outside. A good exit from Druffel, but Jogo Silva now has got the DRS, I think. Yes, he's got the rear wing open, and they're side by side, both using their overtake button, but it's the DRS that makes the difference in the end, and the Haas has got the inside line for turn 1. If he can push him out wide, yes he can. He was ahead on the apex for turn 2, so he stays ahead of Druffel. He knows if he can keep him behind for a bit longer than that, he will be ahead at the end because of that 5-second penalty. He obviously sees that. Kieran also still quite close behind Samba. He's not too far away. He's got a bit of VRS left, both an equal amount more or less. But Amway still pretty close to Kieran, at least close enough. He needs to stay within 3 seconds to gain the spot, and he also wants that 2nd place that he still has potential for against Samba. Let's quickly just look at the penalties. Oh, Samba actually has got 6 seconds, so Kieran's still in P3, so he only needs the gap to Amway behind, which should be possible because the gap is 1.8 and he just needs 1.2 seconds in the last 2 laps. Druffel finally gains the spot on Jogo Silva, and if he can pull away now, he might still have potential for P6 here, but he needs to gain 5 seconds within the final 2 laps now. In the meantime, Marcel's trying to get past Amway, who's going to lose the spot on... Marcel's going to lose the spot anyway because Amway doesn't have any penalties. Marcel does though, and Marcel is going to lose that spot now once again with the DRS and the slipstream that Amway's got into turn 1. Very late braking, but good stuff. Good move there from Amway, and that really helps Kieran because that cost Amway some time. Not too much, but around 2 tenths, and those 2 tenths could be crucial in the end. It's Formula 1. Every single tenth matters. Druffel can't quite build up that gap just yet, but he's just entering the first sector, so I don't know, he needs to pull 4 seconds now, and he's got another 3-second penalty. Yeah, Druffel really threw away a great chance here today by what can be described as only his own fault. I'm sorry to say it that way. It's very harsh, I know, because it's so easy to make a mistake around this track, but if you're fighting for a championship and you've got your rival starting in last place from P13, you can't be losing so many points at the end of this race by locking up, by getting a speeding penalty. Yeah, just not ideal from him. Kieran knows he just has to stay in P3, just has to stay within those 3 seconds of Samba head as we're about to enter the final lap of this race. Roby seems to be controlling everything. He's got the win in the bag unless anything incredibly surprising happens now. I don't want to jinx anything. Like I said, knock on wood. Don't want to be responsible for that. Marcel now gets back past Amway. That helps Kieran. It's closer. It's only 3 tenths that he needs to gain on that final lap on his rival Amway, and that might be possible to keep 2nd place then in the end, and that would mean he gains massive points. I think around should be around 10 points that he gains now, with 12 points in the bag, and Druffel probably dropping down to P8, which would give him, I think, 3 points. 3 points, actually. So 9 points gained from Kieran at the end of this race, if it finishes like that. Let's look at Roby, who's been dominating this race. Completely faultless. Brilliant race from him so far. And he just needs to bring the car home. Amway just got a penalty, which means Kieran will definitely keep his spot if he doesn't pick up any more penalties on this final lap. And it looks like Roby is absolutely controlling everything. He's even pushing on the final lap. He wants that fastest lap of the race as well. He's got a 3-second gap behind. Even if he picked up 2 more penalties now, he would still win this race. And he comes around the final corner. Very controlled race. A brilliant race from Roby as he comes across the line to win in Jeddah. Absolutely dominant performance from Roby. Kept his head cool. Samba crosses the line in second, but it's going to drop down as Kieran from 13th on the grid finishes in second ahead of Marcel, who picks up third due to penalties, and Amboy just threw away his second place. Without that penalty that he got on the final lap, it would have been second. But after starting in 13th place and his championship rival starting in second, in the end, Kieran gains 9 points on his rival and an absolutely deserved driver of the day. I didn't expect that to happen, if I'm honest, at the start of this race. Fair play to Roby, though. Absolutely dominant performance from the McLaren driver here today. Brilliant stuff. Like I said, absolutely faultless. No penalty. Basically led nearly every single lap of this race. Pretty controlled. Brilliant pace. Once again, after the safety car, managed to pull that gap behind. And just great stuff from the McLaren driver. But also Kieran. Great stuff. How he worked his way through the field on the first stint. Then a great strategic call by pitting a bit earlier. Making the undercut work. And then just not making too many mistakes. Just one slight lockup, I remember. Obviously the 3-second time penalty. But it didn't cost him anything at the end. Marcel also great stuff. A quiet race from him, I'd say, but in the end, a great third place. Like I said, the Aston Martins really picked up the pace, and especially Marcel, once again, with the podium here today, started in P3, finished in P3, good stuff, but very disappointing result for Giroffu here today. He had the potential to gain a lot of points on his championship rival, and in the end, he lost 9 points to his rival, which puts him behind by 9 points now in the championship due to the fact that they were equal on points coming into this round. And wow, that really turned around pretty quickly. Within 25 laps, the situation looks completely different to what it did just after qualifying. And Giraffe was going to be gutted with today's race, and he's got 9 points to gain on Kieran in the last 2 races. But a great race here in Jeddah. I really enjoyed that one. I really did. Even though we only had 13 drivers, they put on quite a good show, and they made it quite easy for me to commentate on my own. Even though that was exhausting, not gonna lie, my voice is gonna be gone tomorrow, but I really enjoyed that one. And sadly, that was my last race that I commentated on this season, because I'm not going to be here for the last 2 rounds, which I'm absolutely gutted about, because this championship is really getting spicy at the end now. With only 2 rounds left, I would love to see those final 2 races as a commentator and commentate for you guys, but sadly I won't be able to. I will watch the race if I can. The races if I can. I really want to see how that finale pans out then in 2 weeks' time, but I sadly just can't commentate. But Jake is going to be back for next week, I think, hopefully with someone alongside him, because Jake's internet isn't too stable at the moment. He's still struggling with that. So yeah, it's 17 points for Roby tonight, 12 points for Kieran, and only 3 points for Giroffu. Not a good race, but he just cracked under pressure. He's got no one else to blame than him for tonight, and yeah, he needs to keep these mistakes to a minimum. He caught up massively in the championship. He did great in the last couple of races, especially last time out 2 weeks ago in Brazil when Kieran had a poor weekend. Giroffu managed to use that to his advantage, but now it was the other way around, and he's got a lot of work to do now with 2 races left. And yeah, that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for tonight's round. That was round 9 of the PSGL F4 Championship. Hope you enjoyed the race as much as I did. Make sure to check out the other streams. And yeah, I hope Jake will give you a good commentating experience, but I'm sure he will. He always does. And I'm interested in how this fight finishes in the last 2 races. Sadly not as a commentator, but as a spectator. I will be watching the streams, and yeah, hopefully I will see you guys next season once again as a commentator, hopefully again with Jake. And yeah, make sure to check out the other streams that are going on right now. Make sure to tune in next week, once again Monday 7 p.m. UK time for round 10 for the penultimate round of this F4 season. And until then, goodbye and take care.